Hey kids, welcome back to a special bonus episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your 100% impartial, completely unbiased, and, well, still celebrating, host, Oldman, shouting at clouds. Joining me as usual is MJ.
Hey everyone, I was looking forward to some chill before free agency, but the CFL has no chill right now.
Apparently not. And also here, GT.
Hey guys, nice to be back. I missed you too. The other thing is, old man, my wife says you have to stop. You just have to learn to say no and stop enabling MJ and I.
No. I enjoy this too. Yes. In fact, the goddess and I watch a lot of English television, and they always, whatever the series is, they do a Christmas special. So she says that's what we're doing. This is our Christmas special.
Yeah, I know you tried to ignore our emails, but
we've decided that there is enough going on in the CFL that this is worth doing a quick podcast. It may be short, but knowing us, it probably won't be. It'll probably go nice and long, so we'll see what happens. We're going to talk a little bit about sort of the league news and then look at where the teams are at as far as any player moves and things like that. But to start us out, MJ says that the grizzled old man, Philip Rivers, has inspired her to a game. So what do you got for us, MJ?
All right. Okay, so unless you live under a rock, you must have heard that Philip Rivers is the new starting quarterback for the Colts. He has not played an NFL game in 5 years. He's 44 years old, 10 kids, 1 grandkid. He's out starting as their new QB. So my thought, let's play a little game. I have a list of 5 recently-ish retired quarterbacks. If your team crashes out next year, on a list of 1 to 5, who would you want to start?
Okay.
For your team. All right. So the first one, Henry Burris.
Okay, and is 1 the top or the 5
One's
the
top? 5's like
5
hell no.
is the least. Okay, Henry Burris, I'm going to play it safe and put him at 3. Leave myself some room.
Relatively recently retired. We're going back as far as 2017 with Henry, right? So
I think he could do it.
I'm just wondering who else around that time or sooner. Yeah, I'm going to put him at number 2.
Ooh, okay, all right. Travis Lulay.
There's where I've hurt myself now.
Yeah,
I think I'll have to go 4 as well.
All right. Mike Riley.
Okay, so that we're talking about them coming back now as the old man them. I don't know if Mike Riley can move, but he was a gamer, and I've got to save some room at the bottom, so I'm going to go number 2 with Mike Riley.
And I'll flip it with Burris and go number 3.
Okay.
All right. Kevin Glenn. He can pick up a playbook fast.
He can, and he'll get you through a season pretty good, but the playoffs weren't his one chance, got the broken arm. And no, he's got to go number 5. I have a feeling I'm going to really regret the last one.
Well, it's either a really good one left or it's a really bad one left, right? So it's either the double R or nothing at number 1. So I'm going with Kevin Glenn at number 4.
All right, and then our last pick, Darian Durant.
Oh, I wouldn't even put him on the list.
And I guess I have to put him at number 1.
All right, he's starting for the Riders.
Well, I have no choice. All I've got left is number 1.
Yeah.
So Darian's the number 1.
He's like number 1. Well, I just tried to pick people who weren't coaching because they wouldn't be able to come back.
See,
I like it.
I had Ricky Ray as the number 1 guy. Like, I can't believe you didn't have Ricky Ray as the...
Well, I had Mike Riley.
That's part of the fun of the game. Yeah.
You just never know.
Yes. And if I'd seen the list first, I got to admit, Double D would not have been the top, but he probably would have come in about maybe third for me or so. So that's not so bad.
I don't understand the love outside of Ryderville. I don't think there's the love for Darian Durant. I don't get it. I don't think he was that tremendous. He won them a Grey Cup. Other than that, I don't understand the love for Darian Durant.
I had Anthony Calvillo down, and then I crossed him out because I was like, "Oh, right, he's an OC. He wouldn't be able to just suit up." But then I put Darian. But Dane Evans recently retired, but he's not.
Yeah,
no, he's
not Philip Rivers.
That was kind of the sort of range I was figuring that you would go with for the last one, and I'd be putting someone like Trevor Cornelius at number 1. At least Double D wasn't so bad. And I gotta say, GT, I'm kind of with you on that. Even when Durant was playing for the Riders, he wasn't my favorite quarterback by any means. He had hot streaks, and I felt like not so much. One of the things that used to bug me was he'd come onto the field every time the offense came on, and he wasn't running on or anything. He'd kind of slouch on and slouch off, and I didn't get it. But I can tell you, every Rider that I've ever heard that played with him absolutely raves about his leadership and what he brought to that team. I've not yet heard one of them say anything but, number 1 triple grade A top for Durant. So obviously in the locker room, he was important.
Right. Yeah. And as I said, I guess I just never, maybe I watched what you watched. I don't know. I just never thought, I thought he was a reasonably good quarterback. I didn't think he was a tremendous quarterback. He won a Grey Cup. So have a lot of reasonably good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And he only won one.
Kerry Joseph.
Yeah.
Kerry Joseph won one for the Riders in 2007. And so, and while he had a great career, I wouldn't have called him a great quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Even though I have his
hopefully none of our teams crash out next year and we do not have to pull out from the alumni.
Yeah, let's hope so. I don't know. They were talking about that on 3 Down, and of course Dunk is a quarterback and loving Canadian quarterbacks, but he was just ranting. I'm sure maybe you guys heard it about how can they have someone like Taylor Elgrisma and the other young quarterbacks out there looking this good and they don't get a shot, and yet someone who has to have his walker on the field with him is brought back in.
Well, that shows you again, it is what they say it is. It's a old boys club, and they're not willing to take a chance. That's the reason that so many guys don't get opportunities. Thankfully for us, we get to see them play, because otherwise they wouldn't be, most of our players would be south.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, other league news, I've got a couple of things, but we're doing this kind of freestyle. We're going to talk about the league and then the teams. And so whatever you've got, either of you want to start us off on anything from the league?
Well, I noticed that, and I think MJ had this on her list as well, is I noticed that the league just shut down the old leagueofficial.ca fan forum. And there seemed to be that it was a smaller pool than it used to be, certainly, and the same people on it as always, but most fan forums are that way. I was just surprised that they just kind of did away with it without even mentioning it or anything, and it wasn't announced anywhere until it was gone, and then a couple of people noticed that it was gone and said so, and so I was like, wow. So I went on, because I have it saved, so I went on, and sure enough, it wouldn't reload, and it was So I don't know whether they're revamping it and part of their whole new website. Maybe it'll come back. It's another way not to engage, and it's another way that I think the league has kind of blown it, because even if it's a small number, it was a couple of the individual team sites, like the Riders site and the Ticats site, those two in particular, had like hundreds, if not thousands of members, not always posting, but certainly being active on it. So I think it's a big loss.
Yeah, someone posted that they were directing people to either go to the CFL Reddit site or to Discord. And that just upsets me, because anyone that's a fan of a quirky little league knows a lot of this is your community that you build. Mm-hmm. And you didn't even give people the chance. How are you supposed to find some guy or person from across the country that you have been friends with on this fan forum for 10 years, and all of a sudden you've never exchanged information?
Mm-hmm.
You just always see each other on this forum, and then the forum's gone, and now that person's just gone, and that you've lost somebody who you really connected with. And I just think that if you're trying to build community, at least give people like a couple weeks notice, so they can work out where they're going.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I have to admit, I wasn't someone who used the fan forum, and it may be that they've said there's going to be a new website coming out next year, and they seemed in a hurry to shut things down. I know stuff like the fantasy and the pick'em. As soon as those games were over, it was gone. You couldn't go back and look at the year or anything. So it seems like maybe that's what's going on. But if you're doing that, I agree with both of you. Say that. And say, we'll be down for 3 months, give people 2 or 3 weeks notice. You can get in touch here and here and here. We're coming back with something much better. Don't just dump things.
One of the regular members on the forum has set up a new, almost identical layout. And she said she goes by Gridiron Girl. And she said she set it up within a day of a few hours, just redid everything herself. And with all the same kind of buttons and everything else that you can, and layout. So you can find it quite easily. There was a post on Blue Sky about it today, and I went and looked at it, and it is almost identical to but that also says is how out of date and how bad. How was that somebody was able to redo it in 3 hours? I mean, that does how complicated a process was that? So the league couldn't have done that to just kind of sidebar it if you're developing something new and fancy. So yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's just it's one of those things.
Yeah. I can look through Blue Sky, but if you've got the link for that, maybe send it to me afterwards, GT, and I'll put it in the show notes here so people can find it easy.
Yeah, I'll try to find it. I'll try to find it in the post today, and I'll send it to you.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, to keep from turning this into a real bitch fest right off the top, I'll say something positive in league news, and that is that the numbers for the Grey Cup came in, or at least the preliminary ones. I haven't seen the final ones, but they said the ratings for it, it was a little over 4 million that watched the Grey Cup this year. So that's impressive for this.
Was that English or was that total?
I have a feeling that's total. The article that I saw didn't go into a lot of detail, and they said that there were still some to be counted or to look at it, but the projections for the total viewing was going to be 4 million. So probably a 3 or so on English and about maybe even 1 million in French with the L's in it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, that's why I wondered.
Well, that's a dream come true for them to have those two teams in the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, you that if you can't get a good viewer number out of those two teams, you're in real trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. How about you? I'm going to save the schedule release for the last part of this news thing. Do you have anything else there from the league news?
Well, I just to tie in a little bit to the schedule release, I don't know if you guys all watched, but every team did their schedule release, and some were class acted and some were the worst schedule release posts I've ever seen. So the top two. These two are the only ones I actually watched all the way through and really enjoyed. The BC Lions did a lie detector test with Nathan Rourke, and it was just hysterical. And it was it was pretty shady. It was like, they're so shady, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. Nathan's earning his off-season marketing money for sure.
Yeah.
And now they have the 12 Days of Rourke going, where he does a little video every day. So it's been fun. And then the Bombers full-on did a video game, which my son and my husband played, and they had a great time playing it, but it was also super shady and really well done. So at the bottom is the Argos, who just posted a photo.
Yeah, I heard that.
People are making video games. People are making playable video games, and you posted a photo, which I think just sums up how things are going out there in Toronto. And some other people tried, like the Alouettes tried, Red Blacks tried, but nobody's hitting the social media game like the Bombers or the Lions.
Yeah. I definitely have to agree with that. It is a wide swath. And when we get to Toronto, we'll probably have lots to talk about around that.
Yeah, I saw that. It's actually interesting because when they announced this, the schedule came out, and I posted right away because I saw the Stampeders schedule release video, and I posted Stampeders are the only one to put one out, and then 3 hours later, all of them came out. But I was surprised that there was that big a delay, that they weren't immediately available. And then I went, well, Stampeders are at least first out of the gate, sort of like last season.
Yes.
I did notice they put theirs out first.
Yeah,
so.
they were there. They were definitely there immediately. It wasn't that great, but it was okay. But
Yes.
hopefully what the Bombers and the Lions did will up the standard for next year.
Because they were standard last year too, though.
Yeah. But it seems like some of the teams have to be dragged a little kicking and screaming into the new era.
Ottawa traditionally has been very good social media wise. So I wonder if that's part of the changeover again. They just kind of got lost in the, I don't know if they moving pieces around in the office and maybe there just wasn't the person there again. I understand they did something, but again, it just seemed like in the past, they've been in that upper echelon and the whole behind the R and everything else that they kind of did first. So so I was a little surprised that theirs wasn't more, edgy, for want of a better word.
At least 8 of the 9 teams did make the trouble of putting a video together.
Yeah.
Yes, at least a video.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that. The other, I'll toss in another bit of just news. I don't know how much it affects things, but tangentially, along with the league, because it's the people that cover it. I don't know if either of you saw that the 3 Down Nation media conglomerate of the CFL has been bought up by Harvard Broadcasting, who are the flagship. They own CKRM in Regina, the flagship station for the Riders. They've had the Riders radio broadcast rights for longer than I can remember, and that's a long time. I worked for them in, what was it, 87 to 91, and we were doing the Riders games then. So I don't know if it'll change anything. The boys on 3 Down said it won't, but we might see even more green coverage there. Who knows?
I have noticed that they have done more. They've been doing interviews with players that they hadn't done as much of, quite as fast and quite as often as they seem to have in the last couple of weeks. Pumped out a couple real quick ones with Keon Hatcher, and today I think they did a Brady one, and they did a third at least that I could think of. I think they did
Mike Miller as coach.
They did Miller.
Yes, they had Mike Miller.
Yeah, and they also did what in Ottawa. They did that in that transition as well. So it seems like it is going to make a difference to them, and good for them. I mean, it's a job to them. It's not like we're putting around like we got like us.
Yeah.
You know? So good for them.
Yeah, they're putting money on the
if
table.
anyone wants to buy us up, that's fine too.
We can go cheap. All right. Anything else before we get to the schedule for league news?
No, I think it's been, we're waiting more announcement.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the only other, I had one more point, and I was actually quite happy to see this, was that once the playoffs were all over and everything was said and done, there was an interview with Andre Proulx, who officiated the game in Edmonton, where Rankin got the ball punched out on in the goal line, and it went into the end zone and kind of laid there around, and Calgary finally ran and jumped on it. And Proulx came out and said that he thought the command center had blown that call. He said that should have been a dead ball. Nobody reacted it in time, and basically that they need to do better communication between them. He said the only reason he didn't speak up on it was because he was trusting them to get the right call.
Yeah, and then also, though, I will say, because he indicated that he felt that it should have been a touchdown for Edmonton. And he did not say it should have been on the 1 yard line or something. And he said it should have been a touchdown for Edmonton because it was signaled a touchdown. And I completely disagree with that. And a few people have said that since. And they said, you play to the whistle. You don't play to the hands up in the air. It's the same as, a guy goes out of does he hit that pylon? Does his foot go over? They can change that call even though that they've been signaled a touchdown. They can review it and go, no, that's not a touchdown. So that's what they did. There's still a bunch of controversy about it. And, it is what it is. But I still say, too bad. They should have played to the whistle, or they should have went out and touched the ball or whatever. It's their own damn fault.
Right.
How often do you have a ref, though, being very candid about this in the off season?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, no F's, Andre. I love it.
Yeah.
My little Andre story that we're going to talk about for a second is during the Grey Cup week, the French LCF, I'm not going to say the words in French, but the LCF Instagram, their host and social media woman, she is just fantastic. And he was teaching her how to throw the the flag, and how to throw it, and how to pull it out of your pocket fast. And it was It was pretty fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a good sport.
I'm sorry I missed that. Yeah, and frankly, what you said, MJ, is why I'm mentioning this. It's not whether he was right or the replay center was right or whatever. What I want to celebrate here is that a referee was in a position where he felt like he could break ranks and say that.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
good for the league. My opinion. Could
Yeah,
be wrong.
Yeah.
I
Well,
agree.
I will say we give our refs a lot of hassle, but
Yeah.
in my casual NFL viewing of off-season CFL, there's some very questionable officiating in other
Yes.
leagues, and it's not so bad here. And so,
Yeah, for
job,
officials that
people.
aren't full-time officials that have other jobs and stuff. Well, and even without that caveat, I think in general the officiating we get holds on par with any professional sport I've seen, any of the other major leagues or anything, and is better than some of them, frankly.
Yeah.
Now, I don't watch as much other sports as you all do, but the bits I've seen, that's what the impression I got. Okay, so I think that's it. Other than, yes, the league announced the schedule back at was it December 2nd, I think, or whatever, but they said they were going to start having it put out on a set date, and they did it, which was very impressive compared to last year. So did you look over it? Any thoughts on the schedule at all? I did some number tallying, but I'm curious what the two of you thought about it in general.
I think I'm in the Mike O'Shea camp. The schedule is perfect.
Yeah.
Because you know what? In other words, there's nothing you can do about it. You play the game that's put in front of you. You play the schedule that's put in front of you, right? And but that quote from him last year I thought was great. The schedule is perfect. It's perfect every year.
Yep.
So
control what you can.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it. Somebody calculated the kilometers that each team would have to fly a travel. And apparently the Elks are the sad losers with almost 10,000 more kilometers than anyone else.
Well, I guess it depends on whether Toronto is flying back and forth for those 4 weeks in a row where they play out west, because that's the hook. They're actually in there. This is one of the things I did look into a few things on it that I will mention in Toronto, of course, because we're going to talk about Toronto generally, but in the schedule portion of Toronto, they are it's wacky. So they're road games this year, quote unquote, air quotes, whatever, road games. There's no mention of what games in Saskatchewan or Winnipeg are the road games, whether it's the first game they're there or the second game they're there. There's no mention of it on the CFL site. There's no mention of it in the Argos thing. There's no mention of it in the Riders thing. There's no mention of it in the Bombers thing. So I don't know. Old man, do you know if, as a Rider fan, were you paying for an extra home game in your season ticket package this year? Or is it open to just anybody that wants to buy them? How does that work in Regina? So their schedule is they're in Saskatchewan, then they're in Calgary, then they're in Winnipeg. 3 weeks in a row. Do they fly back and forth to Toronto each week before heading back and forth to each one of those? Or do they stay out west for 3 solid weeks? Do they get the home field? Do they get the home dressing room in each of those games when they're away? Or do they not? Do they get any of the perks? Like I say, if you're a Winnipeg or Saskatchewan fan, did you get dinged for an extra home game? Did you have to pay for 11 home games this year instead of 10? I mean, there's so many questions that weren't and haven't been answered on this shenanigans yet. There's advantages to being the home team that even if you're on the road, you should get. And if they're not getting those, it's even worse. Because then they come back to Hamilton from Winnipeg. They come back for a game in Hamilton. But again, we don't know if that's a Hamilton home game or a Toronto home game.
You get that as part of your season ticket package for the Argos?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, we did. And then they go immediately back to BC.
Yeah.
So it's holy mackerel. They
imagine having an ownership group that doesn't care about you.
Exactly.
Yes. That would be the message.
Way better World Cup schedule than Toronto did. Toronto got of the two, between the two cities, Vancouver got 2 Canadian home games. Toronto got 1. Vancouver got I don't know, England and someone else. But they've got Germany or someone. They at least got a major draw. Toronto might get Italy if they get lucky, but there's no confirmation of that. So again, Toronto, for everything they gave up, they got nothing.
They also got a game in the round of 32, which BC also got, but BC got a round of 16 game as well.
Exactly.
And Toronto
Is
didn't.
that because BC Place can hold more people?
That's what it is.
I have no idea what it is. On the Riders season ticket, I can't tell you. Unfortunately, I'm a Riders fan that lives about 2,500 miles away from Regina, so I don't have the season tickets.
Yeah, but if there are any Riders fans that pay attention to us, please let us know.
Yeah.
Or like Bombers,
Bombers.
or Ticats. Like, what did you get for that?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Hey, at least Toronto didn't ding you for the 2 home games in Winnipeg and Saskatchewan on their season tickets.
Like, here's your like $100 off your WestJet flight. Off you go.
Well.
Okay, so BC has a better World Cup schedule. They knocked it out of the park. They're playing in Langford and they're playing 2 games in Kelowna. They're building it out to, I think, what did they say, 18,000 to 20,000 seats
Something
in
around
Kelowna.
there,
They have just like done everything perfectly, and it just makes MLSE look like just nonsense.
And I'm quite happy to be going to well, unless I somehow can't get the tickets, but I'm going to at least try to get to both of those games, and it's nice to have that 30 minutes away rather than 3.5 hours away.
We're looking at flights and hotels, and because that would be fun to go to Kelowna for this couple games. Well, at least
well, if you come out for either of them, let me know. We'll do something, because that's
all right.
Like I said, that's my backyard.
And that's the other thing is they made the 2 teams. They not only did they get the 2 games in Kelowna and figure them out, that they did it back to back, so they don't have to tear it down and set it up or leave it empty for 6 weeks in between. They did it back to back weekends, and they got Calgary and Edmonton, which is like, it's not like just Vancouver fans are going to be there. The half of Alberta will drive because it's so close. So it's they did it right. They just.
So, kudos to the Lions executive and management team, because they just put in a lot of work, and they obviously worked really did a lot of work with the CFL to make, and probably with the Stamps and the Elks as well. So good job all around.
And that's part of the reason why I say if I can get the tickets without any problems, because I think I mean, if you live in Edmonton or Calgary and you can book maybe a day or 2 extra off and go spend late June, early summer in the Okanagan Valley and watch your team play.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a draw.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before we go off of Toronto on this, I will mention too that the other thing with all this, apparently, I don't know for sure, but I've been told that they're, for a good chunk of the World Cup, they're not even going to try and get near Toronto for practice or anything. They're just going to base out of Guelph and work from there.
Played out of Guelph.
Yeah, so why not play out of Guelph then?
The Ticats played there for an entire season.
Yeah, and they're playing a preseason game there.
Yeah.
They're just greedy. It's just greedy.
Oh,
Nothing to do with the fans.
Other stuff with the schedule. Any other kudos or complaints?
I'm really just happy that it came out early so people can plan. Like last year was not like silly. So this year, I really appreciate that, especially since things are happening in Kelowna. And so it's just really nice for people to be able to set up their plans ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, I noticed a few things as well. And I agree with you that it's nice to be back more than anything, back into the December release of the schedule. Because last year it was like February, but there was a year like just after or just around COVID where it didn't come out until April. It was like it was crazy late. But I looked at a few things, and to me, it's Calgary's got a back-to-back in Toronto, then Hamilton. When Toronto finally gets back to playing at BMO, the first game back is Calgary at Toronto. And then the following week, Calgary's in Hamilton. So I'm thinking that they might stay here for the week, which will be interesting, because then do they practice in Guelph? Do they take advantage of that? Because that would make sense. So, I might get to see my Stampeders at practice again. I haven't been able to do that since they practiced in Kingston years ago. So that would be, that was 2012. But that'll be great. I noticed that, week 15, we have the quadruple header, 4 in a row. That's right. Yeah, that'll be. Oh, that's.
I was thinking we were complaining about watching 3 in one day, and I saw that there's 4.
I'm not sure if that's a lot of coffee or a lot of beer or both. I'm not sure what that is. That's going to be interesting.
I hope they market that kind of like how like NHL does Hockey Day in Canada.
Yeah.
I hope they market it well, because if you're going to do 4 games, you're going to have to bring in some extra people, and commentators are going to be it's going to be a lot. So I hope they do it a really good job with that one.
And then in week 21, there's 2 games that start at exactly the same time. It's overlapping. That's really strange. Don't think I've ever seen that before. So that I thought was weird. And I looked it up. So I went back, because if you remember, we talked about in the last broadcast, there was a story out there that they were moving the schedule forward by a week from last year to this year. So I went back and I looked, and last year it was June 5th to November 16th. This year is June 4th to November 15th. So it's almost identical. But you go back to 2016, it was June 23rd to November 20th. And if you go back to the turn of the century, weird to say that, but literally to the year 2000, the regular season didn't start until July the 5th, and it ran to November 26th. So we're a full month later than we were, not that long ago, for the people that are still complaining that we run too late in the fall. And we're only 12 days earlier than we were then. And that includes a third bye week now that we didn't have back in those days. It used to be the season started on Canada Day.
Yeah, and that's been, like you said, that's been an ongoing sort of thing. And the extra bye pretty much hammered that in place.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to either of you about this yet, but I've got to do some soul searching about how much time and energy I have, but I've got an idea that I may be doing something a little bit special around that quadruple Canada or Football Day in Canada, the 15th there. And if I do, I'll probably drag you. I would definitely be looking to maybe drag you 2 in it. That's just a teaser for you and the fans, because, like I said, if I do it, it's going to take some prepping. So I got to decide if I've got the time.
I'm starting the countdown.
There we go. Yeah, see, putting it out here also puts some extra pressure on me, so maybe it gets me moving. All right. Yeah, the other back-to-back that was late that I was disappointed to see that our Grey Cup rematch back-to-back takes place Thanksgiving Day and the next week.
Yeah.
We've got Saskatchewan and Montreal and back-to-backs in those games.
Well, I was disappointed that it was Saskatchewan, Montreal on Thanksgiving, that it wasn't Ottawa, that tradition that they kind of got going, that, it wasn't, they weren't able to continue that. That's, and I did see as well that the Stampede Bowl is back.
Yeah.
And it's the Argos this year.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
Just in case you wanted to circle the date.
Yes.
I do. I had so much fun this past year at Stampede Bowl.
Yes, and who knows what the Argos will be.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I crunched a few numbers on it. My opinion, there were a couple of teams that were treated not as well as the rest of the teams. And frankly, that almost comes down to definitely Calgary and to some extent BC. Because I meant to do the Thursday night games and I didn't get that far done, but people always talk about the short weeks. How much does that impact you? So this year, the teams playing a game on 4 days rest. Edmonton, Calgary, and BC all do that 3 times through the season. Montreal and Winnipeg do it twice, and the rest only do it once. So there is definitely an imbalance there. And then go up to the 5-day rest. Winnipeg and Saskatchewan both have 4. Ottawa, BC, and Toronto have 3, and the rest have 2. But it's still, Calgary gets, I think, a total of 5 games on short notice, plus they have a stretch of 17 games with only 1 bye in the middle. They have their first bye early, and then I think it's 2 late ones on it. And Toronto's kind of the same. They have 16 games with only 1 bye in the middle. So it's going to be a little tough for a couple of those teams there.
And then
there's others that
everybody's against us. I tell you, we're getting ripped off. It's like my golf game. I'm setting up all the excuses right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. People will be going after Hamilton because they don't have any, or no, they've got the 1 4-day week. They've got
they're trying to give
2 5-day weeks, which is the least.
The schedule's perfect.
So they just no excuses if they don't win at all.
We're running it back with the good schedule.
Like I said, to me, the schedule, it is, as we've said here, great that it's out early. People can start getting the tickets, although, again, I don't know with what will happen with in-game tickets for regular stadiums and that, but I'm told the BC ones for Kelowna here won't go on sale until February, so I'm just going to stay on top of that.
Well, I don't envy anyone having to do a schedule and trying to figure out who else is in that stadium. So the Whitecaps were in the MLS final against Miami, and there was a monster truck show at BC Place. So they had to play their home game. They were the home team. They had to play in Miami as the home team against Miami because there was a monster truck rally event at BC Place. So, scheduling, what a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. And especially in the major cities.
Yeah.
And especially with 9 teams, right? With 10 teams, it's just that much easier to do. You can move things around. But with 9, it's just, you're going to have that, and buys and, bye weeks and everything else thrown in. It's just, it's a mess. It's hard to do. There's no doubt about it. That's why I don't really get generally upset about it.
Put that team in Quebec City and we won't have a problem.
Yeah.
Perfect solution. Put one in Victoria and go 6 teams in one division and 4 in the other. That'd be CFL.
The Riders are in the East now.
Yeah. Anything else to talk about for the league, or do we start bouncing on to the teams?
I think a lot of it just is now team related.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I figured we'd start in the East this time. And Montreal's been active. I've got a bunch of stuff here, but I'm more than willing to let either of you start off and see if I have anything to fill in.
Well, in my household, this has been hot topics of conversation. Top line note, Davis has been extended to 2028. Philpott, until Hatcher signed, got a massive high-grade payday. I was quite shocked, actually, to see that number. And I don't know, personally, don't think it was quite deserved. But it's causing ripples because now Sankey has not been re-signed. And there was rumblings. Danny Machosha, there's rumblings that they might not re-sign Duquois.
That's what he's been saying. Non-committal, as they say.
And they've re-signed Maltos Diaz through 2027 as well. So a lot of good things in Alouettes land. Philpott is going to cause some salary cap casualties there. And they're going to have to do some jigging around.
All right. So I don't think it's got anything to do with Philpott's numbers. I think the numbers are where the salary cap, I think one of the things that a lot of people, some other folks are talking about, and I think is most important, is there's a bunch of money left over from last year because the salary cap went up $400,000+ last year, and most teams didn't spend it. So now they're spending it. They're signing these guys to these contracts and paying them that out in like large upfront money that goes against that $400,000 this year. So in fact, that money for Philpott isn't necessarily going into next year's salary cap. I don't think the number is going to impact like Sankey at all. Sankey's 31, and they re-signed Canton Arcou. And Canton Arcou's the guy that they want, not Sankey. That's got nothing to do with Philpott's money. That's just moving on from older players. And Sankey, I saw him this year be cheap shot and be guy that looked like he was playing cheap to keep his job.
Is he the one that was like extra shoving that guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think he would just played. I think they're just moving on from players. If you look at who they signed Philpott, they signed Canton Arcou, they signed Lestage, they signed Hogan Sagan, they signed, as you said, they extended to 2028 for Davis Alexander. So they're locking up their core and they're locking up the young guys, and they're moving on is what they're doing. They're transitioning in the right way, the smart way. And I don't think there's anything about I don't think that Philpott contract is a massive overpay at all. I think one of the things and you talked about Hatcher, that's obviously also in the BC thing, but he signed for $315,000 to $320,000 a year. That's the biggest money we've seen yet. And I just think we're going to have to get used to people getting paid finally. And it's about damn time that it's not just quarterbacks. And I think we should just be celebrating it and saying the league's in better shape. And I don't think it's going to be too long before, honestly, if it goes the way it's looking like it's going, in a couple of years, I think we could be seeing the first $1 million quarterbacks. I think the next Davis Alexander, the next, what's his name in BC, Rourke in BC, those guys could be making $1 million a year on their next contracts. I really do. Because they're the stars and they're the youngers and they're going to be they're going to be in their late 20s to early 30s and they're going to get paid. Now we need the bottom to rise so that we can get over these criticisms that we've had for years and years and years that, they make $50,000 a year. Well, nobody makes $50,000 a year anymore in the league, even the base rookies, except for maybe the globals. And I think they make 60 or 65. But even the base rookie, I think now is $80,000. And most of the guys are making 100 plus. So if we can get it to the point where they're making 150 to 200, or 100 to 125 is the base, and most guys are making 150 to 200. Again, the perception of the league gets that much better, and people start paying attention more. So I think these salaries are nothing but good news. I honestly do, and I'm happy that they're getting paid. And I think Montreal's doing all the right stuff.
I guess the one that surprised me the most was Dequoy, because if anyone is Alouettes, it's him. Yeah. So I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, but he's going to be 32. He's coming off an injury season, and they've got two great 22 and 23-year-old safeties waiting in the wings. Two waiting in the wings. They're like BC. They've got safeties upon safeties. They don't know what to do with their safeties. They got such good guys. So,
yeah. Well, to what you were saying about bringing the bottom salaries up, I agree with that, because regardless of where it's at, and frankly, I can't think of the names right now, but I do know that over the last 2 or 3 years, we've lost 3 or 4 very promising young players who just retired because they said I can make more money out in the real world. So anything that helps with that, I'll agree with. Is Philpott worth it? I don't know. He's signed for 2 more years, 265 and 270, or no, 275 the first year, 285. So he's going to be the highest paid Canadian receiver, unless something weird happens. I mean, Emilus is still out there, and I'm not sure who else is as far as Canadian free agents.
Is McGinnis signed or unsigned?
I think when they signed him last year, they did 2 years.
Okay, so
I could be wrong.
He'll move back into that upper echelon next year if he continues, right?
Also, though, they paid Lesage on the O-line $240 for his first year, signed him for 3 years, $240 going up to $260 in the final year. So, they're definitely moving up there.
Yeah, and again, I think that's because they anticipate the salary cap going up so that those numbers are not going to be as scary as they sound, because we're used to be, oh my goodness, on a $3 million salary or $4 million salary cap. But it's going to be 5 or 5.5 or whatever. So you're going to have money
6 now,
or 6, whatever. But you're going to have more money is my point. And so these numbers are going to grow, and you're going to hear about them, and they're going to be like, what was big numbers are now middle numbers, and the big guys are going to get paid like what we think is astronomical numbers for CFL guys.
It is good for the league, and I do like it. The other thing we haven't mentioned that was I thought the story was kind of buried and could have an impact on the team next year is that their O-line coach, Luc Jordan, I always struggle with his name. He's been with them as the line coach, I think, since he retired in 2019, and they've said he's stepping away from the team. No explanation given, but the O-line play there in Montreal has been a linchpin of their organization. So hopefully it doesn't suffer from that. Hopefully they get someone in that keeps that up.
Yeah, and they may lose a guy off of the defensive staff to go be the DC in Toronto, apparently, right?
Yes, but I think he was like a positional coach, was he not?
He wasn't the OC, or DC, I should say, but he was, Swift, right? Is it Swift?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe that's it. I've got it down under the Toronto stuff here. Quick.
Quick. Swift. Okay, close. I was in the right frame.
You were in the right ballpark there.
Yeah. Sure. Greg Quick, Greg Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Quick. Who
Taylor
knows?
Swift.
I'm a quickie.
Oh, scheduling news. There's the Bombers aren't playing on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding. So Zach will be able to go.
Yeah.
So it's nice of the CFL to do that for him.
Okay. Anything else for Montreal, or do we?
Two things. One, GT doesn't care about this, but I think it's interesting that I like the NFL workouts because I always think it's interesting. Because I think not that they're going to necessarily sign, but I think this is good leverage for them when they need to start asking for more money. But Travis Thies has been working out with the Vikings. And McGill says the turf needs to be replaced and that it was so bad last year. There was a hazard and they had to pause games to fix the turf. But I don't remember them pausing to fix games to fix the turf unless it happened on TV timeout.
Yeah. Maybe I heard the quote I heard was they said they had to repair it during the games, and I wondered if maybe it happened at halftime when we weren't seeing it or something. But I never remember seeing it.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone. I didn't hear anyone complaining about the turf layer that they complained about at McMahon for years. So interesting.
And I think the number was 1.75 million that they said it was going to cost to do, which is, we had heard back when these rule changes got announced that it would cost well over $1 million for the teams, for the schools to have to adjust their fields. So, it kind of rolls into that ballpark. And, of course they're going to, everybody hedges their money. So I wouldn't be surprised if the 1.75 is really 1.5, but nonetheless, it's a lot of money that, that the Alouettes or somebody's going to have to pay. Somebody said that.
Do they replace it? Do they try to patch it up for 1 year and then change it all when they're changing all the field dimensions? Or are they going to have to replace it coming up for the season and then change it again?
They made it sound like it's immediate, but I can't believe they would do it twice.
Yeah.
So
unless they put on painted markings so that if they replace it and then do painted markings so they can change it a year later with just the paint rather than stitched in.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I have a feeling that as some of these fields get replaced that are dual use, they may get rid of the embedded markings on the field and just go back to paint because it makes it easier with that. Yeah. The only other surprise that I got of the whole Montreal thing was about 5-10 minutes ago when we started this, and MJ, you said big news in your family, and I thought that you were going to start with the Maltos re-signing automatically.
Yeah, well, sorry, Davis Alexander overshadowed that a little bit.
In most places, but I thought maybe in your house it wouldn't, because I know he's got a real fan there.
Is very, very happy that Maltos Diaz will be back through 2027.
Well,
all right.
I also just, speaking of Montreal stuff, immediately when Davis Alexander signed, I thought to myself, oh, well, I guess that kind of throws out my theory that he might be getting NFL looks, because he re-signed for the extra year, because I posited that or posted that when we talked around Grey Cup. And then like last week, there was an article in 3 Down about how he may yet go to the NFL and, he might work. And I was like, oh, wait, maybe I wasn't so far off after all.
Yeah. Well, I would assume that even though he's re-signed, he's still open in that NFL window. So, yeah. I think that Montreal was one of the more active teams, but I think that sort of covered it off. So we'll slide a little west across the river or whatever and go to Ottawa, which was not nearly so active. I've only seen 2 re-signings there. The running back, Attaboy, and Dino Boyd at tackle. Has anybody else seen any other movement from them?
No.
Dinwiddie, but I guess
they're just doing front office stuff. Well, Condell's been interviewing with the Bombers.
Yeah.
So
and Rider fans are very hopeful.
Yeah. I think
oh, Brady, what are you doing, buddy?
Like, yeah.
When we get to Winnipeg, we'll talk about that. But there was news today which tells me pretty much Condell won't be the OC there.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I just had as part of Dinwiddie. They announced Dinwiddie, but they haven't announced, other than William Fields staying as their DC, they haven't announced any of the other coaching staff positions. You kind of assume that they're waiting for the fallout in Toronto and who Dinwiddie can bring with them. But at this point in time, it's a little surprising that they haven't announced anybody else. They're also still messing around with Drew Brown because there's been a lot of talk about. I saw two different stories about Trey Ford's bonus coming due. And yet I'm pretty sure Drew Brown, who negotiated with the same agent and got almost the exact same package as Ford did at the same time, he must have a bonus coming due as well. So they've got to make a decision there relatively quickly. And that's been relatively quiet. We've heard nothing more out of Dinwiddie or anybody else in the organization about what's going on with him. So I think, that's about the only starting jobs in my mind that's up for consideration throughout the whole league, because the other thing that I had in my, kind of league-wide notes was the general carousel of quarterback carousel that happens every year is now over in starting quarterbacks because every team's re-signed. I mean, the fact that they, that Trevor re-signed in Saskatchewan, Bo re-signed in Winnipeg or in Hamilton, Cody in Edmonton. It just means that now there's not a starting quarterback job available anywhere. It's now the carousel
Except for Ottawa.
Except for maybe Ottawa. Exactly. Except for maybe Ottawa. And then the backup carousel is going to be the most interesting part as we get into free agency. Like you look at the names, you got Crum, Ford, Mayer, Powell out of Hamilton. Does he want to stay there? He's a free agent, or does somebody else come along for him? PJ Walker, is that a guy in Calgary still, or after the injury, does he want to come back? There's a lot of questions. I mean, and there's a lot of teams that need backups. They don't need starters, but almost BC needs a backup quarterback. Calgary needs a backup quarterback. Almost every team. So those guys are going to get paid, and they're going to have, it's going to be a bit of a bidding war and interesting carousel of the backup quarterbacks around the league for sure.
When Arbuckle's contract up, does he do a bonus?
No, he signed through this year.
Yeah.
Is he do a bonus though? I'm wondering. So this is my conspiracy about Ottawa, is that Ryan does not seem very sold with Drew, and I'm wondering if Toronto tries to cut Arbuckle loose and Ryan scoops him up, or does Toronto just stick it to Ryan and sit Nick for a year?
Like
so,
GT just said, teams are hurting for backup quarterbacks, and Arbuckle was a good one this year. Now, again, the question is how much of that was Miller and how much of that was Dinwiddie.
Yeah, and we'll see, right?
Yeah,
that's the question now.
We may as well just slide into Toronto because they're the next team there anyway with it. And as far as player re-signings go, they didn't have anything of note. Ryder Varga, who's a good Canadian linebacker, and then Jordan Herdman-Reed is a backup Canadian linebacker, was the only thing I could find for them. But everything else, they're all over the place because I guess technically it happened since our last broadcast. So if anyone only gets their CFL news from here, Ryan Dinwiddie left Toronto and signed in Ottawa as the GM and head coach. So there's been a lot of moves since then. Toronto tried to get just about anybody that they thought that they wanted and were turned down either by the people getting interviewed or even turned down for interviews. Mace turned them down, O'Shea turned them down, Steinhauer turned them down, and then they started talking about people like Kent Austin and even Chris Jones, who hasn't showed up. And in the end, they promoted their quarterbacks coach, Mike Miller, who's had some OC experience in the NFL, not a lot, and then he's been up here for a few years, and he's going to be the head coach and offensive coordinator. So, I mean, Dinwiddie was a quarterback's coach when they hired him, so it could work, but I don't know. And then they brought in Hufnagel and Barker to help with the football operations side of things. They've gotten rid of Murphy.
Gone.
Their one coach that they did have under contract for this year was Shivers as DC, and they've gotten rid of him.
Which is good.
Yeah, I think so. Like GT said, they're supposed to be Greg Quick coming out of Montreal as the coordinator, but yeah, it looked like for a while they were going to be always a bridesmaid, never a bride. They could not find a match there.
Well,
so what do we think of where they ended up?
I'm wondering if some of why some people refused to interview with them is that it sounds like they were like ride or die with Chad Kelly. And I think there's some coaches who said, I will not play with him, or I'm not going to coach him. I don't want the mess of that. I'm actually quite shocked that Hufnagel left Calgary and went to Toronto. I thought I was seeing things when I saw that news break. And I'm not. Apparently, he's going to stay in Calgary and just like work remotely. But what a surprise! Who knows what the news out of Toronto will be next?
I think first of all, yeah, I agree that they went through a lot of names. I think some of that was smoke, some of it was real. I think some of people were saying no before they even got asked whether they were to be there. I don't know that they actually interviewed Steinauer. I think he just said no.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't think they.
Him and Mace both did.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if they even reached out to Mace. Apparently, and it seems that might have been done behind without the team's knowledge. I get the indication that was Murphy. And that's part of the reason he's not there anymore. They finally said enough with him and his backdoor dealings. As good as a scout as he is, because the guy has found talent over the years. You cannot deny the talent he's brought into the league over the years. He is also not a people person and is more backroom dealings kind of guy. So I wonder if they finally said enough in the organization. And I don't think Mike Miller's a bad choice. I think he's going to do just fine. I think he's going to be a good coach. And I think once they got down to who they were interviewing, actually interviewing, not just talking, but actually interviewing, I think he was the best choice to make. I think that they've made a mistake. Well, I don't think they made a mistake in getting rid of Shivers. I was never a fan. I thought he was not very good in any of his last roles, and I think all the teams that he led showed that when he was in their DC. I think they should have just stuck with Ivan, though. I don't think bringing Quick over is the right move. I think they should have just handed the reins to Ivan and let him go. But we'll see how the rest of the staff turns out. For Hufnagel and Barker, I think Barker's a great move because he is another guy that's brought tons of talent to the league over the years. Like him or dislike him, he has brought players to the league, and I think he can still do that. I posted quickly when it happened that this Huff thing reminds me of Norm Kimball going to the Alouettes back in the 80s, from Edmonton to the Alouettes. And that, old man, you may remember that. They were in complete disarray, and Edmonton was coming off of 5 Grey Cups. And it was Norm Kimball was supposed to go there and save the team and straighten it all out and get them back on the straight and narrow and show some of that Edmonton right way to run a franchise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A year later, he walked away and the team folded. So that's sort of what Huff reminded me of. And also, I think Huff had run out of time and energy, and his place in Calgary was done. His place as a legacy guy was there, but his place as a football guy was done. And ownership had decided that it was time to move on, and they wanted him out of the picture, and it was Jay's team. And I think that and Jay has said, I'm the president now, John. Sorry, I'm the president, and this is the way we're going to do things. And I also think Huff is a bit of an old school guy. And I think part of the Stampeders, all those bad marks that they got last year in the PA thing, those are a lot left over from Huff. Those were not necessarily Dickinson. That was partly left over from Huff. And so I don't know necessarily that him going to Toronto is the greatest thing. I'm not sold on that move. I think it's like, and especially if he's staying in Calgary, it's a part-time gig. I don't think that's a great move necessarily for them. He might give some more expertise in management, but I don't think he's going to give much more than that to them.
Well, for whatever it's worth, to me, the whole Toronto thing looks like a cluster, you know what. I feel like the reports that came out when Dinwiddie left about how understaffed they were, how they're running on a skeleton staff, all the problems with that, the PR problems that they've had for 2 years around Kelly doesn't help with them and everything. And it felt like their only way they were going to get a coach was to take someone either from within who was willing to stay, or get somebody who was desperate to get back into coaching. It didn't seem like a good scenario. And it feels to me kind of like the same thing with the GM role or the football operations role. You know, there's no new blood. It's old guys that have been around forever. And, you know, I can't criticize someone for being old. I am too, but you want to get, it doesn't feel to me like any sort of a positive, solid restart for fans to get excited about. It feels to me like, well, we're going to keep it going for a while, or we're going to keep it going till the rules change or something. It just, I've never been impressed with MLSC, and they did not up my opinion of them at all with this.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Anything else?
I don't disagree with anything you said there. I think you're absolutely right. So,
yeah, it's unfortunate because Toronto as a flagship team that could do wonders for this league, but they just can never seem to get there. Now, mind you, given Toronto's history, looking at how they're going into this season, my early prediction is they'll go 9-9 and win the Grey Cup. But
They always do.
Yeah.
I do. You did say that they hadn't really made any signings. I did want to bring up one key signing that they've made, and that was bringing back Ralph Hawley from the NFL. I mean,
I missed that.
Yeah, that's a huge signing because if you think back, one of the biggest problems they had all year last year was the defensive line, and he's going to fix a lot of those problems in a hurry. So that's a huge re-signing.
Okay, thank you.
NFL workout news for them. They're big. They have 3 guys working out, but I think the biggest one name for them is Luka is working out with the Colts and the Bengals.
Yeah. Yes, mind you, the Colts seem to be working out anybody who's ever played in the CFL this offseason. So
for sure, I think. I mean, if Philip Rivers is playing,
yeah.
Well, there's 3.
anything.
There's 3. It seems like the Colts always work out CFL guys. The Saints always work out CFL guys, and the 2 New York teams always work out CFL guys. Those are the teams that you can count on getting a workout with.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes signing.
Yeah.
Enough with the mess in Toronto. Moving us on to Hamilton and the ongoing GM search is the big news there.
So this is interesting because why doesn't anyone want a GM in Hamilton? I'm wondering. I think they just like Toronto's a bit of a mess. I think I'm not a Scott Mitchell fan. And I'm not a huge Orlando Steinhauer fan, and those guys are running the show. And I'm just but if they bring Sutherland back, then what are we even doing here? What are we even doing here? The big news I mean, you can Bo signing for 2 more years kind of puts the other stuff in the background a bit. I'm not sure why they signed him for 2 years. But he says he's going to treat it as a year-to-year contract, so we shall see. But Bo put out a promo video of himself signing, and in it, in the beginning, was the 3 Down Nation guys voiceover talking about how he was washed up and he should just go and join the TSN panel.
Bo would have enjoyed doing that.
Oh, it was the best. It was the best. And then it shows him starting to play better, and they're like, I was wrong. Bo's having a great season. Also a little feather in the Ticats cap. I don't know if you guys know who this is, but ProStats they're on Instagram. I'm not sure if they do have a website, but they run numbers all year long for players in the CFL, and they do like rankings every week of the players and their stats. And their number 1 player of the year, based on statistics, was Castatonis. So he was the ProStats player of the year based on the stats. So that's nice for Stavros and Bo, and hopefully they find a GM. I mean, it's hard to fill Ted's shoes. I think Ted was going to have such a vision for the team, and I feel sorry for anyone who kind of has to step into that, and there might be in the shadows for a bit.
Yeah, again, it's like as you said, MJ, it's low key, but they're kind of as like a mini mess of Toronto for sure. That they need a GM, and they thought they had it figured out, and unfortunately not the case. But yeah, they're not going to find it easy, and it's those 2 guys, and even Milanovic to some extent, because he's a bit of a control freak too, and he's going to be battling and fighting whoever comes in there. Because he wants it to be his team, and he feels like he does. Now he's got his team. So it's going to be hard for them to find the right person that is able to step in, calm the waters, then maneuver around and make the changes that are required, because there are some changes that need to be required there. I don't know how many great next in line. There's the guy in Carousel, I guess his name is in Saskatchewan. That's the next guy, because McManus is re-signed in Winnipeg. So there doesn't seem to be the next, GM in waiting, so to speak, at this point in time.
Apparently, Danny wanted to live in Florida, and that's why that didn't work out. They wanted him to be up in Hamilton.
Right.
Yes. And I've seen that Kyle Carson has apparently I don't know if it was an offer or just for an interview, but apparently he's declined as well. So looks like he's staying in Saskatchewan. But yeah, and that would explain why Hamilton hasn't signed a lot of players. Other than Bo, the only two I could find with names that I even remembered were Taylor Ternowski and Johnny Augustine.
Right.
Oh, and Jamal Peters.
Oh, did he? I missed that one.
Yeah, that's a 2-year one. So that was a big splash.
Yeah. Well, I think you're safe doing that one regardless of who the GM is coming in.
Exactly. That was
but
a pretty
you can
sure
see
bet.
they're waiting to let somebody make the decisions.
Yeah. They have 6 players working out in the NFL right now. And the big names, I don't think it's any surprise that Verisek has garnered some interest in Isaiah Wooden. Those are the 2 big names that are working out.
Yeah.
And of no surprise, the Saints and the Browns and the Broncos and then the Jets and Texans.
Yes.
So who are the other players? Because I hadn't heard. So the non-big names.
Oh, okay. So TSN has a free agency tracker, and they did not put it by team, but I will just try to quickly. So they're
I know
Quentin
Wooden
Barrow.
was getting tryouts from or workouts from. It seemed like if there's 32 teams in the NFL, I feel like 38 have announced tryouts for Wooden.
Yeah. So Barrow's trying out with the Vikings. Constantino, their punter, is trying out with the Browns and the Saints. I'm worried that he might, because Braxton Hill's trying out with the Browns, the Broncos, and the Buccaneers. Talbert is trying out with the Broncos, and Verisek and Wooden. So they have the most out of anyone. So
and
so realistically, who do you think's leaving?
I think their punter could leave.
Maybe
Jake Julian was down in the NFL, and in fact, Jake Julian's trying out again. So, if someone's desperate, Verisek might be a stopgap for the rest of the year.
I think if any of them go, it'll be Talbert. He played damn good, and he could. He's not as known a name as the others. He hasn't quite gotten the publicity, but that would be I would say he's got the best shot out of that list, and that would hurt them. Because they didn't have the best defense last year. They were middle of the road, but he was definitely one of the highlights of it.
Dear new GM, we need a better defense.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, 2 years ago, they had a not bad backfield, but they couldn't get linebackers to save their lives. Mm-hmm. And their line was... This year, they got the linebackers straightened out, and the line played not bad, and the backfield went away.
Can never quite piece it together. Tycast.
All right. Anything else before we jump over all the way to the west?
Nope.
We'll trundle up through Thunder Bay and along the main highway there through Kenora and into Winnipeg. Anybody want to say anything about Winnipeg?
Well, they re-signed Brady yesterday to, again,
3 years.
3 years, big dollars, and it took away my Brady to Ottawa in free agency note.
Yes.
Because that was my note.
Not everything's about money, because Brady and his partner, I don't know if you saw this, Brady and his partner have a new show on CBC about their dog rescue.
Oh, okay.
So I think part of staying in Winnipeg is because he's doing this TV show.
I had him listed to go out to BC, and I was wrong on that too. But that was also the news today that tells me they don't have Tommy Condell in their OC list anymore.
I don't know.
I'm thinking Brady would not go near a team with him as
Elks
OC.
did that to Ford last year. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. But Brady's smart enough that, he had a chance to sign where he wanted, and I'm pretty sure he's confident they're going to have an OC that will utilize him.
I'm sure he had down in writing that Tommy Condell was not allowed to work before he would sign. Yeah. You'd have to think, right? Because he has to see what happened in Ottawa and what happened in Hamilton.
Yeah.
I've heard in the background that they really wanted Miller before Toronto made him the head coach.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of scuttled what their plans are for the moment. And again, this is much older news, but since we last got together and talked, things looked a little bit, no one knew what was going to happen because they didn't have their coach and GM under contract either. And now they've re-signed both of them, O'Shea and Walters, for 3 years.
Yeah,
so they're obviously going to stick around for the rebuild.
Yeah, which is also very surprising because those guys have been on year-by-year contracts for the last quite a few years.
That has to be the most surprising thing that's happened is that O'Shea signed a 3-year deal.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I still think Dinwiddie suddenly not being in Toronto anymore was more surprising than the 3-year deal. That's just me. But
but
like
Winnipeg,
you said, McManus has
Winnipeg's
stayed.
been quiet otherwise. They signed a quarterback. They signed a guy from the UFL that was the all-star quarterback out of the UFL, I guess, last year. And they signed him, so we'll see if he pans out in any way, shape, or form. But at least they're looks like they're going to have some sort of competition for replacement. Because I doubt Strever's not going to be back before Labor Day if he's back at all, and he's talking about not coming back at all at this point. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that.
No,
and yeah, when they started talking about this fella, I can't even remember the name, out of the UFL, and apparently he's had some NFL experience in that. The first thing that popped into my head was PJ Walker. And I thought, well, hopefully not a repeat of that scenario. But they did also re-sign Pokey Wilson, so he won't be trying out the NFL again, which is good. And then the rest was, they had Cam Lawson on the D-line and Retta Cramdy from the backfield. But those were the only other signings I could see.
Yeah. And I wonder,
Winnipeg's so busy.
Did they say, there was any news about how much Cramdy got paid? Because he's a guy that should have got paid.
Yeah, he should have, but I didn't see any reporting on it.
Yeah.
It's hard to find their salaries. I feel like they don't like to tell us. Yeah,
I'm sure that 3 Down will come out with a list towards or maybe after free agency, because they generally do that. But yeah, the salaries have never been announced officially. I don't know how 3 Down gets them, but that's their job, like you said. That's how they make their living, so they're good at it.
I feel like Winnipeg's so busy, like, keeping track of which GMs and which coaches are getting interviewed and requested to interview, and they're, like, making video games. They haven't had time to do anything else. Except for sign Brady.
Yes. Yeah, Kyle Walters is renowned as both a fantastic GM and a tremendous coder for video games.
Yeah. All hands on deck.
All right. So I think that, like I said, covers them. Saskatchewan also, other than...
Trey Vavel's working out with the Jets, Saints, Browns, Vikings, and Broncos.
Yes, he was another one. Obviously, returners are... Considering that they don't actually allow you to return the ball in the NFL, the returners sure seem to be in demand.
Yes.
Okay, now I am going on to Saskatchewan, who's also been relatively quiet, other than that Trevor is back for another year. And the other concern was losing Kyle Carson out of the scouting, because he has been with a couple of teams now. I think he was with Calgary back in their heyday and his reputation is definitely knows his talent and knows what he's doing. But there's that. And it looks to me like my guessing is they're going to be looking for a different backup quarterback next year, because they re-signed Trevor and they re-signed Tommy Stevens, but they've been awfully quiet on the mayor.
They need a succession plan for Trevor. And it's not Tommy Condell. Oh, no, Tommy Stevens.
Yeah. No, definitely not Tommy Condell. But,
definitely not Condell.
But Condell might be a better overall quarterback than Tommy Stevens. We don't know.
Who knows?
Because Tommy is a one-trick pony, but we're happy to have him. And, and actually they keep saying their succession plan is Jack Cohen. They are big on him. So maybe that's why we're not seeing anything looking at Mayer coming back. Maybe they put Cohen in as number 2 this year.
Could be.
Who do you think's going to pick up Mayer? Any guesses?
Oh, I don't know. There's like GT said, there's lots of teams that need him. Winnipeg, if this I would be putting somebody other than this UFL guy in my bucket if I was Winnipeg. And again,
I think he's going to end up in Ottawa.
Yeah, could be, but if Taylor Powell decides to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Taylor can't be happy that Bo signed for another 2 years.
No, I wouldn't think so. And, and who knows it all depends what coaches or OCs think they can still squeeze something out of Mayer. Maybe he doesn't end up anywhere.
Yeah. He might be like Cameron Dukes and just spend half the season waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the only other big name out of Saskatchewan was they got Hardrick back, which was good because he was a force this year and got the O-lineman, a most outstanding O-lineman. But other than that, it was Awachi, who's a fullback who's good. But unless you're in the weeds like we are, most people don't recognize him, and Dalkey on the defense, which was a little surprising because kind of got the impression that that Mace wasn't happy with him when he first came over there, but he's worked his way back into being a solid special teamer and playing positionally, situationally on the defense, and they seem happy with him again. Anything else from either of you, or?
No, I just had my notes said Saskatchewan was pretty quiet. I mean, the three teams in Saskatchewan and Alberta, both were all pretty quiet.
So all I have is that Dante Myers is working out with the Vikings, the Bears, and the Moose.
Yeah, and that could be a bit of an impact. But to me, the biggest question with the Riders is going to be, where do they sit with their Canadian receivers when this is all over? Because if they can afford to keep them all, they will be looking awfully good. But, you got Emilus in there, who most people are saying could easily be a number one receiver, might be the best Canadian receiver in the league. It's debatable, but you've also got Schaefer Baker, who's didn't come back from injury as good as he used to be, but still contributes on there. You got Tommy Neal that came over this year. You got a Joe who came back and can contribute when he wants to. Duncan Busby is still good. And then they've got Deshaun Mims, who was drafted a couple of years ago and is just sort of working his way in now. And I can't remember the name of the player from last year so they've got a cornucopia of Canadian receivers, and most of them are in free agency. So it'll be interesting to see who stays and who goes. I don't know I wouldn't say this is my prediction, but if I had my choice, I think I would probably let Schaefer Baker go, and my priority would be, of course, Emilus and Neal. I've always been impressed with Neal, even when he played in Toronto, and he has certainly become a clutch player for the Riders. So
absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Schaefer. But anyway,
I think Schaefer Baker will end up in Edmonton, but we'll see.
Now that's quite possible.
No.
They're looking for receivers, and
and him and Cody have a relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true. When it goes back to his first breakout year was with Cody. Yeah, good point.
All right.
Okay, and speaking of Cody, then let's jump over to Edmonton because he's re-signed.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, GT kind of spoiled this. Didn't give us a spoiler alert when he started off saying, "Oh, and he's resigned. He's resigned."
The Elks are gonna run it back with Cody for another year. They liked enough. I think they saw just enough. But I mean, this is when I'm like, always like, Cody doesn't get the respect he deserves. He's a top quarterback. He's won great. And now I'm like, oh, the Elks re-signed Cody for another year. I'm like, no, I don't know. I guess okay, but. Ford's due his bonus February 1st. So, and Cody's resigned. They're going to $100,000. They're going to have to figure that out. Ford, the day Cody's resigning and they're flashing it all over. Ford was in Disneyland posting Instagram stories of his kid at Disneyland. And then the Elks are like, Cody's back. Also, nothing really else is happening. They signed Vincent Blanchard for another year. So they guess they liked. This is like, I feel like the Elks, they're like, we liked you enough to try you again. So I don't want to say Blanchard's an elite kicker in this league by any stretch, but they've seen enough that considering how the kicking's been in that team the last few years, it's just good enough for like status quo. So we're going to keep you. And I feel like that kind of is the vibe from Cody as well. Cody needs some receivers though. As mentioned, they have no receivers really. Of any, like, if we want to talk star quality in the CFL, if you want to talk star power for receivers, there's not, I can't think of one on Edmonton that is a star receiver for Cody to throw to.
They have a bunch of people that would be a good number 2 or 3 receiver. And I include, who was it, Dunbar in that. He's good, but he's not a number 1 even if he comes back with it. And neither is Gittins, and neither is, who was it? Came over from Montreal. Drawing a blank. The 2-name guy.
I don't know what the expectation is here because it feels like it's just like kind of run of the mill, and I don't think they're shooting for anything. So I don't know. I don't know.
Well, they seem like they're happy with their defense in general because that's where they're doing the re-signings.
I was surprised that they re-signed Robbie Smith as quickly as they did.
Yeah.
And there was no mention of the money that I heard that I think I read he's making the same kind of money again. So they paid him that $270 last year and they're going to pay him again next year, even after coming off of a down year and an injury. They signed Terrell Ford, which a lot of people said they weren't going to do after Trey getting on the out, but Terrell re-signed, and again they signed him to pretty big dollars last year, so they must have paid him again this year. So they're throwing some money around too, and again that all goes back to that salary cap that I talked about earlier. I think that people are getting paid finally.
Yeah. They went all in on Rankin as well.
Yeah, they paid Rankin a lot of dough.
Yeah.
So they've made some decent moves. They just haven't made the big ones yet. So there's still that whole linebackers question that we talked about last time around too, what they're going to do there, right? So it's going to be interesting. And they're just looking for a backup quarterback. If they don't re-sign Trey, they could pay him the $100,000 as a signing bonus against this year's cap, and then only pay him $100 to $120 off of next year's cap, and he's making $220, which is what backups make. Mm-hmm. So he's going to probably have to take a pay cut no matter where he goes. So it just depends on whether he wants to stay in Edmonton and take a pay cut, or whether he wants to go somewhere else and take a pay cut. Yeah. That's reality for him.
Yeah, and I get the impression he's as far as he's concerned, he's done in Edmonton, which I can sort of see. So. They might get him back, but I'd be surprised.
Mark Killam even kind of was like, Trey will be great for the CFL, basically like on some other team, not this team.
Yeah. So, if they don't want to pay him, if they don't have much other options, because they say, okay, so is Dustin Crum better than Trey Ford? Are we going to pay Dustin Crum $250 and we got to pay $225 or whatever, $240 for Trey Ford? Maybe they decide to stay with Trey Ford. Maybe they just do. Maybe they can, and then Trey goes, whatever. I mean, I'm making $240. Does he honestly? Maybe he's at the point where he doesn't even care anymore. Maybe he's just like, whatever, I'm getting paid, man. I'm going to Disneyland. I'm taking pictures with my kids. I'm getting paid. That's all that matters.
Honestly, that's kind of how it feels right now. And it's really too bad.
So maybe maybe he's checked out. Who knows? Yeah. Does he even want to play? That's the question that he needs to ask, and all the teams need to ask. Does this kid still want to play football, and how badly? And that's the decision on whether he gets another job, period. Yeah. And if he doesn't, and if 6 other teams decide that they don't think he's worth the money, then he might as well just suck it up and play in Edmonton for $225 if they give it to him.
But do you want to even give that to him if is checked out like that? Like, my impression is, and again, this is stuff I've seen through the media and everything, so it's hard to say, but he does strike me as someone who is competitive and wants to win. And I just think he feels like he's been screwed around in Edmonton over and over again and has no interest in being there. And I think so that's where I think it'd be a mistake to bring him back, because I don't think, even if he's got the potential to be a good quarterback, I don't think that organization can bring it out of him right now. Yeah. But I could see him going to, who knows, BC maybe as a backup to Nathan, because they're somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mazzoli's a free agent, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's somebody that's going to get signed.
Yes, I think he may be on his way to coaching.
I'm tracking that so closely.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother, like I said, that's a whole nother podcast as we get closer to free agency. But I do think the backup quarterback position is going to be very interesting throughout the year.
It's like starting QBs was last year. Yeah, you're right. This year is going to be how many backups get shuffled around.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of teams in desperate need for them.
So there's questions around a couple of people that are getting a little bit up there in age that, do they have another year? I think that the ones that's being asked about do, other than, again, Zach, and as long as O'Shea's in Winnipeg, I think Zach stays as the quarterback until he's can't crawl on the field if he wants to. But, other than that, Brown, like you said, Brown, injury prone in Ottawa, don't know. And Kelly, in Toronto. We have not seen him on the field since his injury. He's Mike Miller's saying he's the starter. And we'll have competition, but he's our starter. Did that injury actually impair him physically to the point where he can't perform the way he used to?
Which is why the Nick's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And they got him locked up, and he's under contract. And he publicly said after the Grey Cup that it's Chad's team, and I'm going to be the second guy when Chad comes back. So he publicly said it. He's not like he's hiding from it. So it is there. But that's all we've digressed off of again.
Yes. So, but let me just say, when I said earlier, though, about the defense, they've also signed, besides Robbie Smith, they re-signed Noah Curtis and Noah Taylor on the D-line, and Brandon Barlow. And along with Tyrell, they signed Cordell Jackson in the backfield as well. So they've got pieces of the defense they're obviously happy with.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think worrisome for them is that Jake Julian, as we mentioned, Jake Julian's trying out with the Saints, and he's played down in the NFL before, and he came back and signed like a 2-year deal with the Elks, but he's down there working out again.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that
they've got Cody Grace lurking there too as an unsigned free agent. So it's not like they don't have somebody that can't step in.
He got injured though, and I'm not quite sure if he's back or if that's still an issue with him. But Cody Grace is, if he is able to, then he is lurking in the wings for sure.
Okay. So then we slide down the highway to Calgary, and I imagine you'll know a lot more news here than I was able to pick up, GT, because it looked very quiet. The only thing I had was them re-signing Bryce Bell on the O-line and Clark Barnes at receiver.
That's it. That's all they've done.
Okay.
And and they've been real quiet. I think that, again, and other than the Huff news, and I think that's a bit of an organizational thing. So I think they are I think they're just going through the head office and that kind of stuff and figuring out what they want to do there and how they're going to manage the team going forward, rather than worrying about signing players other than what they can do as they come up. They're not, really stressing about it. And that's sort of Dickinson's, he did a lot early stuff last year, but this year, I think he's more in the mode of, okay, we've got a team. Now we've got to be more selective rather than just get any guys. Now we can see whether we want to keep these guys or not and who we want to keep. But I think the two signings that they did have are both important. Clark Barnes is very important, and Bryce Bell is nice to have back because he's a Swiss Army knife on the offensive line. He was injured all year last year, but he can play 3 different positions, and I think he's important to have back. And he's a glue guy and a leader as well. So I think that those are both good signings. They've got a couple guys, on your NFL circuit. They've got a few guys. The big one, of course, is the defensive lineman. That I think that's the guy that they're going to miss the most if he does sign in the U.S. Although I think he's only had one thing. Damian Alford had 2 quick ones, but we've heard nothing since in the last month-ish. They were very early. The same thing. Hicks, I think, was also going to have one, but I don't know if that ever happened. So there's not
Jalen Hutchings.
Yeah, Hutchins has had 2, I think. Again, Cleveland.
When you were trying.
Yeah. And Hutchins has had 2, I think, and one of them, of course, was Cleveland. And again, I don't know that it's been quiet since then. If anybody signs, I think he's the most likely of all the players this year. He's the most likely to actually end up getting a contract and sticking around for at least most of the year down there. And I'm not talking about to play this year. I'm talking about to play in next season. So, but anyways, that's it. So they've been real quiet, and we'll wait and see. I think there's some players that they need to sign, but until you're close to free agency, there's so much time left that I don't worry about it until the week before free agency.
Yeah. My kid was like horrified that Alfred was out doing NFL workouts, just devastated. And then he's like, "Oh, they re-signed Barnes, but that's Alfred's position." So I was like, "Oh, I know things happen, so we'll see how things shake out in Stampeder land."
Yes. They need 5 of them. There'll still be room for Alfred there.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
when your favorite player is on the out, a little bit on the outs, right?
Yeah. Hey, it's part of the pain of fandom. He will learn as he
Yeah.
grows.
He's learning. It's been actually kind of fun because I'm like, oh yes,
Yes.
buddy, I know.
Yes. I don't know that I've recovered yet from Weston Dresser playing in a Blue Bomber uniform.
Yeah, we all have those heartbreaks.
Yes, we do. But personally, I think Calgary's in a pretty good place this year because they did come together and played well. They had some off games, but overall they played really well. And it was a team that seemed like it had good chemistry to it. But again, other than, Hutchings and probably VA on the offense and the running back, they didn't really have anybody who's like going to be a sought after free agent. They had a bunch of guys that work really well together. So if they want them back, they can probably get them. And to me, that's what they need to do is they need to put that starting team back together and then work on building up their depth because that's what cost them last year. They just, when people started going down, they didn't have replacements in a lot of it. So
and I've been very concerned about their Canadian linebackers last year, and I think that that's where they need to focus. And the guy that I wanted was Terrell Richards out of Montreal as a free agent, and he re-signed in Montreal today, so that takes him off the list for me. Yeah, I really think that, I talked about it over the season. The Canadian linebackers definitely need something.
Yeah. Oh, well, Adam Bighill is a free agent.
Yeah.
They could re-sign him.
Yes, he's a good locker room guy.
Yeah, that's what we've all been told that.
Yes. All right, then. So we'll move on to the last one we've got for today here, which is BC. And not a lot of action there. You guys mentioned they made Keon Hatcher the highest paid non-quarterback. So they have now the highest paid quarterback and the highest paid non-quarterback. And even with the extra salary money, where is that going to leave them in the cap? But other than that, they have Josh Haggerty, who's one of those multiple safeties you mentioned, and Riley Pickett, who they converted from defense to fullback last year. And I haven't seen any other signings. So have I missed? No,
they've been quiet as well. When I looked at their free agent list, as I glanced through each teams, they don't have. You talked about Calgary not having a bunch of guys that everybody's hot to trot to try to steal from them. BC's the same. There's nobody on that list that you go, oh yeah, he's leaving. I mean, Hatcher was the guy. So that was, they've signed him up, and I think that they can go. I think free agency this year is going to be really, really not a big deal, not as big a deal as it's been in the past, because I think a lot of these guys are getting paid now, and the biggest names are already off the board. The quarterbacks, the receivers, the DBs, a lot of them are off the board. It's not going to be a lot of guys left. It's going to be middle of the road guys and filler.
Yeah, I also think some people are waiting to see what things shake down with coaches and other teams and who's signing with. There's just some of that too. For me, the biggest drama for the BC Lions right now is not anything to do with team dynamics or team free agency. What is happening in BC right now is that the MLS has told the Whitecaps that they can no longer, we talked about this briefly, but they told them that they are no longer able to play at BC Place and that they need a new stadium. So now the Whitecaps and there's been interest from other cities to try and move the Whitecaps.
Why is that?
Because they keep getting overbooked. And I think it's too big.
Yeah, that would make some sense.
For sure, the issue with them, they also had to play one of their playoff games, not the final. They played that away, but they also had to play another playoff game away from home because of a double booking. So now they want an outdoor stadium with grass and, the whole MLS shebang. And so they're looking at, they have an MOU with the city now for Hastings Park. BC Place is owned by the province. So now there's talks about what the BC Lions are going to do because it's hard for them to fill that stadium as well. And do they want to move up to Hastings Park and partner with the Whitecaps and MLS? Both are their own dilemma. I will just say that Hastings is not as transit friendly as going to BC Place, but BC Place, if it's not full, is kind of sad. It's kind of like being at Commonwealth. So there's some sports rejigging and drama that's going to happen the next couple of years in BC, and whether the Lions decide to stick it out at BC Place or whether they decide to move up to Hastings Park. We'll see.
Okay. I hadn't heard any of that, so that could be interesting.
Yeah, I had heard that I had heard that they had an MOU with the city, but I thought it was more of that whole, oh, we're so excited. We think that this is now and I was like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know the background and why they needed to move when the province just spent, again, hundreds of millions of dollars to refinish and give them BC Place. And I'm surprised that the league can say that. They could say, you need a new stadium, or no, you need a better schedule.
Yeah.
You can, you need to you need to hold dates more in case. Like, that's what happens here in Toronto. Why the Argos can never play at home in October is because there might be a playoff game in MLS. So that's why the Argos could be in first place and you're not going to see them for 5 weeks in a row from the end of September through to the middle of the November Eastern final, because there might be a game that the MLS needs it for if TFC makes the playoff and their shenanigans of however they set up their schedule. I mean, and they could say that in BC too. And I guess
maybe that's just an issue with the province.
Yeah,
right?
They should just. But why would you go out and spend all money on another couple $100 million on a stadium for a soccer team? That's just dumb. Sorry.
Yeah.
But MLS likes to throw things like this is sidebar. It's not CFL, but MLS, it is for the Argos stuff. MLS has decided to change their entire schedule. So now it's just going to be over the winter. So teams like Montreal, Toronto, who have outdoor stadiums, they're like, what's going on? And I mean, if you want to talk soccer too, there's also some drama going on with the Bombers, and their FC Valor just folded. And there's actually, I should have talked about this with the Bombers. I forgot, but there's been some very damning allegations and how the Winnipeg Blue Bombers treated their soccer team and what happened there. So soccer is a little dramatic in Canada right now.
Yeah. Well, plus, whether it's soccer or football, I'm not sure I'd want to be sitting at a game in BC when one of them atmospheric rivers comes through, because having the roof is awfully fortunate in those conditions.
Yeah, so if they move out, they're going to have to play over the winter, and it's going to be, rain.
Yeah. And just like this last weekend, it's, unless you've been there for it, it's like one of those Texas monsoons where it suddenly starts coming down, and it couldn't come down any faster. It's a wall of water.
I mean, for the Lions, it's not as a big of an issue. Like, I was in Vancouver when BC Place was closed, and they moved us all over to Empire Field,
which was a great stadium. It was intimate.
I had the best time at Empire Field. You can see the mountains in the background, and the stands were really loud, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it there.
Yeah, and with all those temporary, I went to a few different games when they were down in that one, and with all those temporary stands, people got their feet pounding on the metal, and I was
one
loud.
Of those people.
So who knows? If they do a soccer stadium or a small one, I would like to see them do almost the same sort of plan they did in that temporary one, because that was part of what made it so great. It was small, and you felt like you were right on top of the game. It was fantastic to watch.
Well, with the new field, it's a new field, they can do it together, at least, if nothing else, right?
Yeah.
But then,
well, we'll just have to.
You just have to put up with the you're ruining our turf nonsense from the soccer guy.
And moving the sides, like the benches for everyone's games.
I think that's it. Apparently it's a good thing. Ow, there goes my voice. I think that's it. So anything else to wrap up before we're done, or have we given the audience enough of a treat, an unexpected treat of our smiling faces here?
Yeah, no, I think it'll slow down for the next week or so over the holiday. And then in January, we're going to have the apparently open to the public almost CFL Board of Governors meetings, very transparent governors meetings, and that'll bring out lots of news, and that's when we'll probably get back together.
Yeah. That'll be I think that's just before the free agency too, isn't it? So we'll have a much better idea of who's re-signed and who hasn't.
I think we're still a month apart at that stage, but it's pretty close. I thought the governors meetings were like mid to third week of January, and free agency is middle of February. So
Yeah, and see, I was thinking, my thinking was sort of the same. I thought it was 3rd or 4th week of January, and the legal tampering opens, I think, on like February 7th or something. So,
okay, can we do a favor? Because because otherwise you're gonna get me again going off on. Let's not use that term on this podcast.
Which term is that?
The one that you just said. Because there's no, it's a ridiculous term that somebody invented.
Oh, the legal tampering window, yeah.
That the league allows to perpetuate and allows, and people don't get, because then they hear it and they hear it and they hear it, and it sounds Mickey Mouse, and it makes the league sound Mickey Mouse, and yet it's not accurate. It's an inaccurate statement. It's an open window that every league has, and yet somehow this league has been saddled with a disproportionate amount of bad publicity around a situation that every league has. It drives me crazy. It makes me nuts that purported real media, including those guys that just got paid, being no longer a podcast but a media outlet, still use and promote. It's not right. Don't use it. If you want to promote the league, stop using degrading terminology about the league. That is not inaccurate, and it's a degrading terminology about the league. It's not accurate. Sorry, that's just me. That's just me on a rant.
I get it, and believe me, I appreciate the passion, and you make good points. So I will try to not use that term. I'll try not to slip into using that anymore. Am I okay to call it the Ed Hervey negotiating window?
It's a negotiating window. That's what it is. It's negotiating. It's a negotiation window. It's what it is. Yep. The NBA has it. Nobody talks about the NBA the same way. They literally, you can do it for 2 weeks from July and you can't announce any contracts until 2 weeks later. The NHL does it. They just don't talk about it. I mean, it's just, again, another one of those things that I don't know why we allow our league to be talked about in that way, and why reputable newscasters continue to do it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, like I said, it is a very good point. And I think that the issue may be that there's too many of us around that remember how we got to this in the first place, because it didn't used to be. All right. Point well taken. You can give me a virtual slap if I use the term again. Anything else now for our closing?
We were having such a good talk.
Yes, we were. But that's part of the fun, is you never know what's going to trigger. Okay, then.
Yeah, so the negotiation window opens at the first week of February. You are correct.
Yes, yeah. So somewhere in around there, we'll probably come back and do another show for you folks. I don't think there'll be anything before that, but we'll have to see. We weren't planning to do this one, and then the CFL. I like seeing this much CFL news in the off season. I got to say.
That's why I wanted to talk, because it seemed like we have more news in December than we've had in December of any other year.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was hitting me, and I was seeing it, but I've been wrapped up with a few other things. So it seemed to me like, I'd see, there's a spat here, and then I wouldn't look at anything for 2 or 3 days, and then there's another spat. And then once you emailed and said, we should do this, there's a lot going on, and I went back and started tracking it. I thought, holy crap, yeah, there is. Anyway, any other closing thoughts, GT, or your social media?
No, my only other thoughts is Merry Christmas and happy holidays to any other holidays that you enjoy, and that enjoy the season, and take care. Say hello to your families. Give them all hugs. And we will talk again in the new year. And in the meantime, if you do want to see the occasional post, there might be one on Blue Sky at GT Barnum.
Yeah. I actually had someone on Blue Sky come at me and say, love the stuff that you're putting out here. Now that we're in the off season, can you tell us a bunch more stories from like the 50s and 60s and that? And I thought, sorry, wrong guy. My memory's not that good. But if you would like to, because you're the man from that, go ahead. There's at least one account on Blue Sky that would love to see it. How about you, MJ? Anything to close with?
Yeah, just quickly, it is my kid's birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday, too. Wish him from us.
Yeah. And so between that and the holidays, it's been busy. But, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone. And CFL, please be chill so I can finish watching Heated Rivalry and not have to deal with you.
Okay, something else
You
I've never
can-
heard of. So
Oh, wow.
no,
don't get her started.
Please tell me.
It's consuming my every waking thought right now. So if you enjoy Heated Rivalry, find me, or, CFL talk. You can find me on Blue Sky at Sports and Plants.
Okay. That sounds good. And we'll disappear here again, like everyone's been saying, for another month. But in the meantime, I'm still going on Blue Sky at Oldman-SAC. There is still some stuff going up on Twitter and on Instagram and Blue Sky at the CFL Outsiders. And I'm still doing a bit of stuff on Reddit if you want to check it out there. But other than that, I think we've covered everything we've got. I'm imagining that if you got this one, you probably subscribed because nobody would have been expecting this. You probably got a notification. But if you are brand new, if you are one of the lucky people who just discovered us out of the blue, please subscribe and you'll get notified when we're going again through the rest of the off season, and then we hit it hard next year. And I think that's about it. I'll echo what GT said. Merry Christmas to all that celebrate it. Happy holidays to those that celebrate something different. And hopefully the year ends better than it's been. For GT and MJ, this is Old Man saying, get the hell off my lawn.